you are doing very well. My name is Dr. Usama. I have done my MBBS and MPH. Now I am pursuing my career in general surgery as a resident surgeon. So today I am gonna present the topic of dermatological impacts of UV radiation exposure. It is a very interesting topic and it is rigorously under the research. So let's begin. Understanding the UV radiation. So, what is the UV radiation? It is sort of light that comes from suns directly. So, there are different wavelengths, let's say, type of light that reaches us from the sun. But this specific wave of light or this specific radiation affects our skin badly, affects our health in many ways, affects our ecosystem in many ways. So, we are going to discuss the UV radiation and its impact on human health mainly. So, UV radiation is a form of electromagnetic radiation uh, in the form of electromagnetic energy emitted by the sun and artificial sources like tanning beds, etc. So there are two main sources. One is the natural one, that is sun, and the other one is man-made or artificial sources, let's say. So there's an example we call tanning beds. They are sort of trending these days. So it is very important to talk about them, either they are useful or not. So on the electromagnetic spectrum, UV light residues between visible light rays and X-rays. So there is a spectrum, like there is a line of the wavelengths of the light. For example, here lies the red light, here lies the UV light, there, next one uh, lies the X-rays. So we do not see the X-rays, we do not see the UV radiation. We only see within a spectrum of light, like there are, if there are, a sufficient light from the sun in the specific wavelength, so that we are able to see in that specific light. We are not able to see, the X-rays. We cannot see the other spectrums of light other than the visible light. So, on electromagnetic spectrum, UV light resides between visible light and the X-rays. So, on a spectrum of wavelengths of the light, the UV light resides between the visible light and the X-rays. So, it is it apparently have a middle one amongst the X-rays and the visible light on the spectrum of light. So, if we talk about the spectrum of light, this is a sort of strip shown. This one is UV light section. This one is a spectrum visible light. This one is infrared light. So only this section of the light is, useful to us. We can see in this spectrum of light. Otherwise, we cannot see if there are any infrared rays. We cannot see if there are any UV rays. So these are uh, invisible section of that contains the wavelengths that we cannot see, that are infrared, and this one is UV that are also invisible. So uh, the main source is sun. So solar radiations are coming in different forms. One of the spectrum is useful to us, that is called spectrum of visible light, and all the other types are invisible. That we are manipulating them in different ways to make good use of them. Like the X-rays, we use them to scan medical diagnostics in other fields. So when the UV radiation is essential for life, is a paradoxical force. It facilitates the synthesis of vitamin D. In some way, vitamin D is being synthesized in our body, but that synthesis is only stimulated if we sit in we take sun baths for a specific period of time, like a few hours a day or a few weeks, for a few hours a week. So it has benefits as well as potential hazards. If there is a prolonged exposure to the UV light. So it facilitates the synthesis of vitamin D, vital for bone health and immune function. Yet it also poses risk to our skin and overall health. So there are benefits as well as there are risks. So the skin being the largest organ and the first line of the defense against environmental stressor is particularly susceptible to the UV damage. So the skin is the outermost, layer of our body. So which means it is most exposed to the UV light. All other our organs are not, directly exposed to the sunlight other than the skin. So a well maintained or a few hours that are minimum required for the vitamin D synthesis are okay. If the UV index is not too high in that area or that specific region, so that is beneficial for human body to to get stimulated to synthesize enough vitamin D. So UV light has one main benefit is to stimulate the vitamin D synthesis in the human body. So meanwhile, there are a big list of hazards or potential risks that a human body is prone to if there is significant exposure to the UV light for a longer period of time. Moving to the next, how are people exposed to UV radiation? As I already told that the major natural source of the UV radiation is the sunlight. The other one is man-made, like different machines or different like ways of producing UV radiation, like artificially to uh, to get some benefit from it. So sunlight is the main source of UV radiation. Even though the UV rays make up only a small portion of the sun rays, different types of UV rays reach the ground in different amounts. About 95% of the UV rays from the sun that reach the ground are UVA rays, with remaining 5% being UVB rays. So this specific beam of light we are talking about is UV radiation. It has also subtypes which are called UVA, UVB, and UVC. So the strength of the UV rays reaching the ground depends on the number of factors, such as time of the day. UV rays are the strongest between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Then before 10 a.m. and after 4 p.m., there is a gradual decline of the UV index in our uh, in the sunlight that is reaching to us directly. So the season of year, so the main, there are two fluctuations mainly. UV index changes with respect to time, with respect to the season of the year. As I said that there, it is maximum between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Then if we talk about the seasons, UV ray are stronger during spring and summer seasons. Then this is less of a factor near the equator. So those areas near the equator, uh, they are kind of exceptional areas where UV index is kind of maximum as compared to the other areas. So it is potentially very, harmful for human health. So if we talk about human sources, there are sun lamps and sun beds, which we call tanning beds and booths. Phototherapy, we call it UV therapy, black light lamps, mercury vapor lamps. So there are different type of lamps and tanning beds that we use to, generate artificial UV radiations. So the amount and the type of radiation uh, is someone is exposed to from a tanning bed or booth depends on the specific lamps used in the bed, how long a person stays in the bed, and how many times the person uses. Most modern UV tanning beds emit mostly UVA rays, with the rest being UVB. So, if we talk about the sun tanning baths that deliver UV radiation, if a person is exposed to it, so there are a list of factors that we consider, that how long he stays in that bed, how oftenly he or she uses that bed, so, and the type of radiation being used or emitted by it. Next one is phototherapy. It is sort of, a trending thing in plastic surgery or cosmetology, let's say. Uh, UV therapy is utilized in many ways for skin problems such as psoriasis are helped by the treatment with the UV light. For treatment known as PUVA, a drug called Psoralen is given first. The drug clots in the skin and makes it more sensitive to UV. Okay, this specific drug, if we apply that on a specific area, it makes skin more sensitive to UV. It means that the more UV can can penetrate to the skin. So these are various ways or methods that we use ultraviolet light in our medical field. Then the patient is treated with the UVA radiation. Treatment option is the use of UVB alone with a drug, without a drug. So there is the UVA, UVB, and UVC. The main, the spectrum that are being used are being emitted either artificially or naturally are UVA and UVB. So if we speak black light lamps, the lamps are bulbs that give out UV rays, mostly UVA. The bulb will also give some visible light. It has filter that blocks most of that out while letting the rays through. So how these lamps work? These are have specific filters around them that blocks the rest of the waves or spectrums of the light and only allows the UV radiations to pass through it. So it is also an important artificial source. So these bulbs have purple glow and are used to use fluorescent material. Bug zapping, insect traps also use black light that gives off some UV rays, but the bulbs use a different filter that causes them to glow blue. Next one is the mercury vapor lamps. Mercury vapor lamps can be used to light large public areas such as streets or gyms. So if we talk about the street lights or floodlights, we talk about them there. Uh, in some of them, mercury vapor lamps are being used. So how do they work? They are emitting UV light that is relatively that glows brighter. So they can cover a large public area such as streets or gyms. They do not pose people to the UV rays if they are working properly. They are actually made of two bulbs, an inner bulb that emits light, UV rays, and the outer bulb that filters out the UV. So UV exposure can only occur if the outer bulb is broken. Some mercury vapor lamps are designed to turn themselves on when the outer bulb breaks. So uh, besides being the useful part of this bulb, there is also a hazard that if the second bulb gets broken or gets damaged, so the UV light or rays can directly leak out from that bulb. From the bulb, if potential damage, the other one who is emitting UV radiation, so there is no one holding that radiation back. So those radiations will definitely cause some health hazards. So some mercury vapor lamps are designed to turn themselves on when the outer bulb breaks. That ones that don't have this feature are only supposed to be installed behind a protective layer in the areas where people would be exposed if part of the bulb breaks. So as you may already know that there are some sort of radioactive radiations that elements in the chemistry you already have read maybe in high school that emit radioactive waves. We can't see that those waves, but those waves like the UV radiations uh, you know uh, are a potential health hazard to the humans, to the animals as well, because UV rays and the radioactive waves can potentially mutate the person's genome and can cause cancers of different types, like the UV radiations cause skin cancers. Coming to the next topic, type of UV rays, UVA, UVB, and UVC. So if we talk about the penetration of different UV wavelengths, UVC penetrates the least, UVB is the moderate one, and UVA penetrates the most of the other, as compared to the other types of the UV rays. So this is a section of the skin shown, is zoomed under a microscope, is shown different type of skin layers to estimate the potential depth of the ray that is approaching to the skin. So UVA penetrates the most, UVB is in between of the both, and the UVC penetrates the least. So it is not a potential health hazard. Mainly the UVA and the UVB are. So if we're using for UVB in the phototherapy, then we have to use a drug that makes the skin more susceptible to it. So it becomes more sensitive to UVB. Then UVB can go deeper in the skin. So the UV rays have least energy among the UVA rays has the least energy among the UV rays. These rays can cause skin cells to age and cause some indirect damage to the cell's DNA. UVA rays are mainly linked to the long-term skin damage such as wrinkles, but they are also thought to play a role in some skin cancer. So the UV rays are, culprits that cause the disease in a slow manner. Like it can cause wrinkles, it can cause, can make the skin age faster and can potentially, develop a cancer over a long period of time. So UVB rays have some slightly more energy than UVA rays. They can damage the DNA in skin cells directly, and the main rays that cause sunburns, they are also brought to cause more skin cancers. So, if we speak of the UVB rays, they cause more of an acute episode of the skin disease. Like the main rays that cause sunburns are UVB because they carry more energy that they can instantly burn the skin. So UVB is have high energy and can cause instant damage, but the UV has A has less energy and can cause a chronic damage to the skin, causing wrinkles, causing aging, causing cancer. So the sunburns are mainly caused by UVB rays. So UVC rays have more energy than other types of UV rays. Fortunately, because of this, they react with the ozone high in our atmosphere and do not reach the. So as we speak of the energy spectrum between the three types of the UV rays, the UVC rays has the maximum energy, and before reaching to the ground, there is an envelope around the Earth. The types UVC rays directly react with the ozone and cannot penetrate enough, to get to reach the ground. So, but UVC rays can also come from some man-made sources such as welding torches, mercury lamps, and UV sensitizing bulbs used to kill bacteria and other germs, such as in water, air, food, or on surfaces. So we also utilize ultraviolet light of different types to, disinfect the surfaces, disinfect the water, the air, and the food, like on a big scale. So it is very, very convenient to use light, to kill microorganisms or disinfect large surfaces. So UVA and UVB rays are the main culprits that are reaching to the ground and cause health hazards other than the benefits they give. So UVA rays cause A for aging, okay. B UVB rays. So to remember it is better B for burns. So UVA causes aging, longer wavelengths that reaches deep into the skin layers, responsible for signs of aging and longer term damage, can penetrate through the glass as well. Versus UVB rays, B stands for burns, shorter wavelengths, responsible for surface damage such as sunburn, causes sunburns and other more immediate signs of skin damage such as rashes or eczema or different type of skin diseases that are acute, that show acute abrupt, or they can start instantaneously. They cannot penetrate through the glass. So if there is another factor, if we speak of the rays, UVC gets blocked by the ozone layer, UVB gets blocked easily by the glass. Then the only wave that can reaches to us are UVA rays. So if we are some sort of under a glass, then we are automatically protected of from the UVB and UVC. But UVA can still pass through it, and if you are staying under sunlight with where the UV index is very high, and you if you even if you are staying under a glass or glass dome or have a home which has very great sun exposure, so the UVA rays can still pass through it and still cause chronic skin damage to you, and can cause a quick, premature sort of aging to your skin, can cause wrinkles easily. So these two are the main differences to we can differentiate either UVA cause the damage or UVB cause the damage. So how does our skin react? If we speak of the tanning, when our skin is exposed to the UV radiation, it sets off a series of responses that reflect both its defensive mechanisms and its vulnerability to damage. So, a cascade of a series gets started in the skin that either one mechanism starts to activate the processes that can uh, synthesize vitamin D and can stimulate our melanocytes are the main cells which darkens our skin. So that specific part also stimulates that melanocytes, so tanning gets started. While the other effect of the UV exposure is the skin gets damaged and skin starts reacting to it. If damage is being caused by the UVB radiation, and in response to UVB, our skin start its flare, it's getting red, or it shows sign of instant damage to the skin. So if it is being exposed to the UVA, then it doesn't show apparently any instant sign, but over a longer period of time, you can see if your particular part is being exposed to the UV light in a daily routine, while the other part is not being exposed to the light, so you can see a visible difference over a course of years, that the part that is being constantly exposed to the UV light will age faster, will have wrinkles, will have rough skin, and all other may start cancer in that skin area. So the skin's initial reaction is to produce melanin, the pigment that gives our skin its color and acts as natural sunscreen. Melanin absorbs UV radiation and dissipates it as a heat, reducing the risk of DNA damage that can lead to the skin cancer. So our skin cells called melanocytes uh, create melanin, that is sort of protective pigment and absorbs UV light, and this way the UV light is not able to penetrate deep and cause damage to our DNA of that specific area which is getting exposed. So the this process leads to tanning, which may many people mistakenly regard as sign of health, but in fact it is an indication that skin has already been damaged. So it is very important that you know uh, to uh, to get some sun bath. I know it is very important for the health, like as I've already mentioned, that it stimulates the vitamin D synthesis, but it is also hazardous if we talk about its potential risk it poses. So it would be I would say better to use some sunscreen or to avoid the sunlight in the peak hours of the UV index. So this way, our skin, stays protected from it. Speaking of the sunburn, in this picture, sunburns are clearly shown. So this was the covered area by the shirt, and this was the uncovered area. So this particular area was burned by the UVB type of radiation that showed the instant reaction of the skin, causing redness and may itching or any signs of other inflammation. For some individuals, especially those with fair skin, UV radiation can overwhelm the skin's defenses, leading to sunburn. So, with fair skin means that specific person, if taking of the most white population, they do not have as much as melanin production as other brown or black people have. So they are more prone to the sunlight and more prone to the sunburns. So this is a clear sign that skin cells have been harmed. Sunburn manifests as a red, painful skin that is hot to touch, and it's the result of the skin's attempt to repair itself from the UV-induced injury. It's the blood vessels dilate to bring more blood to the area, which aids in the healing process, but also causes redness and heat, the telltale signs of the sunburn. So what happens is that the sunlight reaches to the skin, and if there is not any sort of protective layer over it, there is not enough melanin, then it starts damaging the skin, and the skin attempts to repair itself by improving the blood supply to that area. So on improving the blood supply to that area will cause more redness of the area. It starts getting a bit hot than other areas of the skin or of the body. Then there will be definitely other signs as well, like pain or itching if we see because there is already the process of inflammation is started. Inflammation means there is a sign of uh, being some reactivity going on, and there is some damage and they're being repaired or blood cells gathering around. So this is a whole cascade of events that is going on here. The effects of UVA on skin aging. As I said, the UVA is a culprit that doesn't show any signs of instant damage, but over a period of time they damage the skin in irreversible sort of way. It can cause wrinkles, it can cause aging, it can make you age faster. Like if you are 30-year-old or 35 or 40 years old and you are constantly exposed to the UV rays, like without a sunscreen or without any protective layer, and you are working constantly under the sunlight in a very high UV index area, then definitely your skin will look like more like a 60 or 70-year-old person. There will be more wrinkles. There will be skin. Your skin will not be as youthful as without that it would have been without the exposure. So the damage would be irreversible. The skin will not be that much flexible, or skin will lose its power to heal quickly as it used to be. Okay, so the UV rays penetrate deeply into the dermis, the thickest layer of the skin, where they can damage the collagen fibers, making the skin, it- collagen fibers are the main infrastructure of our skin that make our skin to make more bouncy and make more youthful. So what UVA does, it directly targets the collagen fibers, so our skin's main infrastructure start getting broke down. Collagen is a protein that gives skin its youthful firmness and resilience. As UVA rays break down collagen, they promote the development of wrinkles and cause the skin to lose its elasticity. So when the skin loses elasticity, it results in aging, sagging, and stretching. So this is an example of UV and the skin aging. If you look at this area, you will see this like this. If you put a hand on this side, and you will see there is more wrinkles, more aging, and that person like looks like 10 or 20 years more older than their age. And if you look at this side, this was relatively it is this skin is resilient and seems bouncy, and there are very less wrinkles and there are less signs of aging. So this subject is a 69-year-old truck driver. He never applied sunscreen as he thought his window would block radiation from the sun. So what happened exactly? It blocked the type B radiation that didn't cause any sunburns to him, but it definitely let the UVA go through it and damage his skin permanently over the course of years. So after many years on the road, you can see the unfortunate result: extreme aging to the patient's left side of the face. So this area was exposed, to the sunlight over a long period of time over the course of years. So while the side of the subject's face is relatively preserved, the left side, which was repeatedly exposed to the chronic UV rays, displays just what kind of damage prolonged UV exposure can cause. So, if we speak of skin cancer and its relationship with the UVA radiation, UV radiation is a significant risk factor for the skin cancer, the most commonly diagnosed form of cancer worldwide. So the relationship between sun exposure and the skin cancer is well documented, and a whole, a lot of research articles, a lot of researches have been previously done and still going on about how the UV radiations are, targeting our skin, and it is directly involved in the skin cancer, which is the most commonly diagnosed form of the cancer worldwide. So it is also a consequence of the UV radiation inflicts on the genetic material within the skin cell. So it is definitely a cause that cancer is only starts growing, or cancer only gets produced if there is damage to the DNA. The DNA gets mutated or sort of, gets out of control, then it starts, growing on its own. So we call it a cancer. So the UV radiation damage the DNA of the cell, helping it to, escape from that protective mechanism of body to not, uh, grow freely or to proliferate freely. So if the DNA gets damaged, the all the restrictions of the cell division gets broke. So the cells start growing, in a proliferative way. So this is what we call cancer or tumors. So this is another graph shown with various races and the UV exposure versus cancer risk. So this one is North European, British European, Scandinavian, Southern European, Central European, Mediterranean, Asian, Latinos, Eastern Indian, African, Native Americans, African, Aboriginal. So there are six categories of different races mentioned with their skin color. So this is a Fitchburg scale pigmentary phototype in which this person is completely shown white, and this a spectrum goes on with light brown, and then more brown, then dark brown, and that black. So this graph shows the amount of melanin being produced in the person's body. So the epidermal melanin is the least in the northern European British individuals or the locals of that area, and it is maximum in the African origin people. So this is a great benefit that our skin, we are producing different quantities of melanin, and it is being useful to us in one way or other way. So as our origin, our locality, we definitely should seek protection. If we're white, we have to use sunscreen or protective layer, and if we're black, and we are kind of lucky in the sense that melanin is being produced in abundance, and we are relatively safe and UV resistant. So this is one is UV phenotype, and this person would be the most UV sensitive. And instead of the skin tanning, it can get skin burns directly because there is least melanin in this person. So this person would be the most UV resistant, and already its skin is brown, very brown or black, and melanin is in excess. So even if they are dark brown, they would get a tan, but their skin would never get, skin burns like in a usual sunlight of UV index. So the cancer risk is also shown in this graph, as skin cancer will be maximum. The risk of skin cancer will be maximum in this race or this locality, and will be minimum in this locality. So moving to the next topic, next slide. Type of cancer caused by the UV rays. So basically three types of main cancer, each have a unique relationship with the UV exposure. So one is basal cell carcinoma, the other one is squamous cell carcinoma, the third one is melanoma. These are three types of the skin cancers that are caused due to the main UV exposure. So the BCC or basal cell carcinoma is the most common one and is associated with chronic exposure to the UV radiation. So it usually appears in sun exposed areas of the body such as the face and neck. While BBCs are generally slow growing and seldom spread to the other parts of the body, they can cause significant disfigurement if not treated early. So mostly basal cell carcinomas do not spread to other areas of the body, but they invade locally. As if you do not get it treated early, it will invade the area locally and will go deeper, 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 and spread more areas around, but it will not metastasize to other areas. So in this pictures, there are three types of cancer shown. This one is basal cell carcinoma. It starts like this. Then this one is squamous cell carcinoma. It looks like this on the skin. And this is melanoma. It is, skin cells that produce the pigment melanin. If they get out of control due to the UV exposure, then this will be a blackish tumor, which would be called melanoma. So The squamous cell carcinoma is also linked to the cumulative sun exposure and tends to rise in the area of skin that have been frequently sunburned or exposed to the UV light over many years. So, squamous cell carcinoma can be more aggressive than BCCs, are more likely to spread to the other tissues if not treated. So, the basal cell carcinoma doesn't, spread to the remote areas of the body, but it invades locally where it gets started. So, the squamous cell carcinoma, on the contrary, is, gets spread to the other areas of the body other than the main origin. Third one is melanoma. It is the deadliest form of skin cancer and is closely linked to the intermittent intense UV exposure that leads to the sunburn. Melanomas can develop anywhere on the body, not only in the areas exposed to the sun. If detected early, the survival rate for the melanoma is high, but advanced melanoma can be difficult to treat and can spread rapidly to the other organs. So, if we speak of the abundance of the cases reported of the BCCs, basal cell carcinoma, and squamous cell carcinomas. So squamous cell carcinomas are 33% in a population of 1.8 million. Meanwhile, the BCCs or basal cell carcinomas are reported uh, in 67% in 3.6 million people. So how do UV can cause cancer? So this is our DNA. If we magnify it and look under the electronic microscope, so this is the normal structure of the DNA, and this one is damaged DNA. Here you can see this pattern is broken, and this strand is separated from this one. So what happens is incoming UV light, direct targets this bonds between these nucleotides relating to their separation, and this way the DNA gets damaged. So the UV rays cause long-term damage to the DNA of the skin cells. It is a damage that can lead to the skin cancer. So what happens? This mutated DNA starts to replicate, and it gets uncontrolled, which leads to the cancer formation. On a molecular level, UV radiation can cause direct DNA damage, which leads to mutations. Specifically, UVB radiation tends to cause direct DNA damage, while UVA penetrates more deeply and generates reactive oxygen species which indirectly damage DNA and cell membrane. These are sort of species that cause profuse skin damage. And if we are on drugs such as on antioxidants such as glutathione or vitamin C, then these reactive oxygen species uh, can go down as sort of protective therapy if we take enough vitamin C, or if we eat glutathione stimulating foods which indirectly damage the DNA cell membrane. So these reactive oxygen species are made by the UV radiation that can cause skin damage in the form of damage to the DNA cell membranes. Both forms of the UV radiation can impair the skin's immune surveillance system, further increasing the cancer risk by allowing mutated cells to multiply and spread unchecked. So how do we balance the potential benefits versus the potential hazards? So if we speak of the vitamin D synthesis, the most significant positive effect of UV radiation, specifically UVB, is the role it plays in the production of vitamin D in our bodies. Vitamin D is crucial for bone health. It aids in absorption of calcium and phosphorus from our diet. So it is very important to uh, to get adequate sunlight so we can expose to the UV radiation, and enough vitamin D should be synthesized. So because it is very important for the bone health as it strengthens our bone. Mood and well-being, exposure to sunlight can also influence our mood and well-being. Sunlight triggers the release of the hormone serotonin in the brain, which can boost your mood and help a person feel calm and focused. So besides being the vitamin D synthesis, our mood and well-being is also sort of dependent on the sunlight, because this hormone is sort of called happiness hormone or happy hormone. We gets released once we uh, are in sunlight. In winters, in some areas, or because sunlight is really scarce, people like there is uh, a general mood stays low, or people feel really, tired or fatigued, and sort of winters are sort of depressive in general. So this is due to, if we are not getting enough sun exposure, this can be due to decreased serotonin levels. So treatment of the skin conditions under medical supervision, UV radiation can be used therapeutically for certain skin conditions. For example, uncontrolled amount of UVB radiation can help treat psoriasis. It is a disease. UV therapy is common and effective treatment for this condition as for others like vitiligo and eczema. So these are potential benefits of the UV radiation. If we speak of the UV index, what is it? The UV index is the international standard measurement of the strength of the sunburn producing UV rays at a particular place and time. If we calculate, the UV rays, the potential of the UV rays to cause sunburns at a particular place in a particular time, we are calculating the UV index of that area. So the developed by WHO, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the other international entities, the UV indexes provide a daily forecast of the expected risk of overexposure to the UV radiation from the sun. If you check your browser or your lower corner of the MacBook or the laptop, there are your weather is getting updated real time. It is connected to the internet, and the UV index is also being displayed. So how to protect yourself? So this is a grading of the UV index. 1 to 2 is a low, 3 to 5 is moderate, 6 to 7 is high, 8 to 10 is very high, and 11 plus is extremely high. So as per the grading, the layers of protection goes on increasing. So use UV blocking sunglasses, wear sunscreen, wear a hat, wear protective clothing, stay in shade near the midday, reduce time in the sun, avoid the sun between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at least. So during specific seasons such as summer or autumn. So the UV rating, even if there is low UV index, you should wear sunglasses, wear sunscreen, wear a hat, and wear protective clothing in while going in the sunlight, in midday. So as the rate of the UV index goes on, the protective layers of we should use it goes on increase. So the index ranges from 1 to 11 or more than 11 with higher values indicating a greater risk of exposure. So low grade, it is not significant danger for any person. Moderate one is causes moderate risk for a person that is unprotected. The high risk of harm from unprotected sun exposure starts from mainly this grade. Protection against skin and eye damage needed, and there is very high risk of harm from unprotected sun exposure between 8 to 10 values, and definitely 11 or 11 plus uh, UV index is very very harmful for human health. It can definitely cause sunburns, can start inflammatory reactions in the skin, and can damage our eyes directly. So take all the precautions because unprotected skin and eyes can burn in minutes in extreme UV radiations. So this is a what are the UV index levels? It starts from 1 to 2 to 11 or more than 11. 1 to 2 are usually safe and no protection required. And in the medium and high, between 3 to 7, protection is required. And between 8 to 11 or more than 11, there is extra protection required because if you are working in near equator, you are working in a high UV exposure environment, then definitely you should need extra protection. So, coming to the next, proactive protection, sunscreen, clothing, and shade. So, the harmful effects of UV radiation can be significantly reduced by taking proactive protective measures. Here we discuss three critical methods: sunscreen application, protective clothing, and seeking shade. You may all are aware of these, but we can go through it shortly. So I can take your questions after this, after completing this. So sunscreen, we all are aware of that. It is called sun protection factor, which we call SPF, indicates the level of protection from UVB radiation. So there are a lot of sunscreens available of different companies in the market that shows this value of SPF of 30, SPF of 50, or higher value than this. So sun filter rating SPF versus PA. So if we, there is no sunscreen, there is definitely oxidative stress, sunburn, sunspots, freckles. And so if we use SPF 10, it uh, stays for 1 or 2 hours, then it starts, it will not no longer be useful because this is very low grade protection. SPF 15, SPF 30, SPF 50. So SPF 50 provides 98% protection from the UV exposure. The next one is protective clothing, your first line of defense. So if you are going in a midday out in the midday, so you shouldn't be wearing too short clothes or being too exposed to the sunlight. If you're working in a high UV exposure, you shouldn't be without your personal protective equipment or your proper apron. So if you are wearing a proper dress and you are covering your body in the midday or between the peak hours of the UV exposure, or in around the equipment of UV generation environment, so you should be covered properly. So next one is the seeking shade, the strategic retreat. So if you are not protected, you have not used any sunscreen, you are not wearing, not covering your body adequately, and you are accidentally, gone out, and the very easy, and safe step would be to stay in shade for a while until that peak hours will be gone, or you can borrow an umbrella or sort of any find any shade to 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 be safe from the UV rays. So it is important to know that UV rays can still reach the skin indirectly through the reflective surfaces like water, sand, and concrete. Therefore, shade should be combined with other protective methods, especially in environments with a high UV reflection. So sometimes shade is not enough. Even shade is not enough. It can UV rays can also be reflected and still can cause damage. So uh, the very safe method would be being in shade during the midday. Even if it is very important to go out in the midday or during peak UV hours, you should be wearing proper clothing that cover your whole body and spare the very least skin to be exposed. And you should carrying umbrella in sunlight with very bright sunlight during the midday, and you should be wearing sunscreen at least of SPF 50. So there are two categories of protection, like SPF is the sort of cream or lotion or any spray. The UPF is sort of fabric we use to avoid the sun. Standard used to measure the effectiveness of the sunscreen. This is the we the way we check the effectiveness and deployment of the sunscreens. And the UPF is the standard used to measure the effectiveness of the sun protective fabric. So UPF provides protection from the UVA and B, but the SPF only provides protection from the UVB. And SPF of 15 prolongs your protection 15 times it takes to burn. So SPF 15, only prolongs and delays the time to get sunburns. But if you are using more than SPF, value SPF of 50, then you are totally safe. And UPF 50 blocks out 940 or over 945, 49 over 50 or 98% of the UV rays when worn. So uh, it would be an extra protective step if you use both SPF 50, you are wearing UPF clothes, high index UVF clothes, UPF clothes, and you are carrying umbrella, and you are not much roaming in the midday sunlight or during the peak hours of the UV light. So it would be extra protective. So behavioral strategies, it is very important. Besides this, protective measures, behavioral strategies are also equally important. So timing and duration of sun exposure is already, discussed as before that you shouldn't be out between the midday, like 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. 4 p.m. So it is safer to schedule outdoor activities outside of these hours. Early morning or late afternoon to evening are the best times for lower UV exposure. So monitoring the duration of exposure is also important. Sun exposure tracking, educational outreach. So these are different behavioral steps we can utilize to minimize the sunlight exposure. So if you are working in near equator, you are living near equator, you are constantly exposed to a high UV index. Uh, uh, and if you are working in high UV environments, then you are also constantly exposed. So it is very important to carry a sun exposure or UV, tracker sort of device with you. Like persons working in the radioactive areas carry devices with them. So these are the behavioral strategies we can deploy to minimize the risk of UV exposure and uh, adverse effects. So advances in UV protection, if we speak, like high-tech sunscreens are available in the market. Wearable UV sensors are available. UV blocking window films are also available. So sunscreen formulas have become more sophisticated, offer broader protection against a wider range of UV wavelengths. There are a whole variety of the sunscreens are available in different forms and in different SPF levels that you can buy at any stores. So wearable UV sensors are available where if a person is professionally working in the UV in the high UV exposure area, or if they live in the area where the UV exposure is naturally high, so you should wear UV sensors. So at least you should track your behavioral activities or daily routine, so you can cut down your sun exposure to the least. So UV blocking window films can also be placed on your car windows or trucks windows, window sides at least, so that you can block more of the UV radiations penetrating to the windows. So this one is a wearable UV sensor. As you can see, this one is very sophisticated, very small device. What are public health recommendations for UV safety are incorporate UV safety into school curriculums to instill sun-safe habits early. So it is one of the, as a public health scientist, I would say it would be the best step to educate from the very beginning, from the very school level, to include this awareness from in the curriculum, and so that even the children are aware to this, because as you already know, this uh, global warming is going on. The ozone radiation, ozone layer is getting down day by day. So there is more UV radiations coming through the ground. So it would be better to educate people about it, and to be safe, to be safe, uh, precautions are better, even better than the main treat. So if you properly be follow these protocols, it would be less inconvenient than going for treatment for either your wrinkles, either your skin problems, either your sunburns. So enforce regulations on tanning bed usage, especially for minors. Fund public awareness campaigns on the risk of UV exposure and skin cancer. Advocate for policy changes that require shade structures in public spaces. Support legislation for clear labeling of UPS ratings on clothing and accessories. So mandate workplace safety measures for outdoor workers to prevent overexposure to the UV radiation. So these all are the public health recommendations. I would personally recommend this, that it should be enforced at every level to potentially avoid this kind of conditions, or we can potentially benefit from the UV light, but at the still at the same time we can still stay protected from it. So thank you. That's it. If you have questions, please ask.
Hello, hello. So if you have any questions, we do see a hand up, Doctor Usama. Let's see. Um, Oh, that's a clapping hand. That's not actually a hand raised.
Oh, thank you.
Um, okay, but here's a question. Between, oh, I can't see that. It's partly blocked. Okay, between black skin and white skin, which one can be burned by the sun scientifically?
The white skin is more prone to the sunlight, as I already said, because it has less mechanisms for the protection or production of melanin pigment, which is helpful for blocking the UV rays. So white people are more prone to it than the other people with high melanin amount. So white people have the least melanin production because they are white, uh, as it logic says, because it makes them look white because they doesn't have much melanin as compared to the other brown people or black people. So they are naturally more prone to the sunburns and more prone to the exposure of the UV light.